Memorial Day weekend. Sorry, my voice is not being very cooperative. Welcome to Beacon, a Unitarian Universalist congregation located in Summit, New Jersey, on the ancestral lands of the Lenni Lenape, Native Americans. I'm Kimi Nakata. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Beacon congregation and also of the Beacon Hope and Equity Center. I've been a member for about 19 years with my wife and daughter. Welcome to everyone who's here in person and also those joining us on YouTube or Facebook. Welcome if you're a visitor, if you're returning after some time away, and if you never miss a Sunday. We're very glad you're here today on this gorgeous day. We invite any visitors to take a tour after the service. Just go to the welcome table and speak to Lindsay. She's waving her hand out there. She's wearing white. Due to the holiday weekend, we've given our volunteers the Sunday off, so there's no social time with coffee the way there usually would be. But we encourage you to invite someone to go with you to the farmer's market, which is about 2 blocks down the street and 1 block over, or to one of the many restaurants and cafes in town. Welcome again. I now invite Mia, our worship associate, to come forward to light the chalice.
Good morning. Our chalice reading this morning is from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now. Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make, other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages, other countries, other stakes. Purge the past, forgive the future, for each come too soon. Surrender only to this life, this day, this hour, not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it also beckons with beauty, startles with delight, if only we keep waking up. This is the gift we have been given, these body clothes, this heartbreak, this pulse, this breath, this light, these friends, this hope. Here we remember ourselves, all a part of it all, giving thanks together. Come, let us worship. Please rise in body as you are able and sing in the gray hymnal, hymn 123, Spirit of Life.
Stirrings of compassion blow in
Auntie. Long time no see, and how are you?
I'm doing great, Jeevan. How are you? Are you doing okay?
Yes.
It's so good to see you. It's been so long since I've seen everybody.
Ooh, look at all these people, and look at all the kids.
I mean, what's not to like today? It's beautiful out. It's not winter anymore. Woo, can I get some shout outs? It's not winter anymore. I don't need to hibernate. I made it through the freeze, and it's a long weekend. There's parades, and there's pretty red, white, and blue flags everywhere. I mean, hooray! Hooray!
Yes, Memorial Day and the official start of summer when township pools opening up. Do you go and jump in township pools?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of chlorine in township pools. I mean, but my favorite pool is actually a freshwater pond. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know, because your pools are meant for you, but ponds are meant for me, and rivers. I like slime.
Wow.
Does anybody out there like slime? No, all right. Only me.
So glad you get to enjoy that slimy pond. But shouldn't we be really sad this weekend? I mean, aren't we meant to remember soldiers who have died? Isn't that what the parades and the flags are all about?
I mean, yes, and I know that my friend Jermaine over there, Jermaine's dad was a soldier, yeah?
Yeah, my pops was in the Air Force and the Navy for 20 years, and then he did 15 years as a police officer.
Whoa!
I loved him, and I love seeing him, and I remember him every weekend, particularly on this one. I liked seeing him in his uniform. He was so sharp and so handsome, and I was so proud of the work he did, fighting for our allies in Vietnam and South Korea, in Germany, and here in the Americas. Fortunately, he didn't die while in active service. And although I think of him a lot during the holidays, this day is more about those who died than those who are living.
You must miss him a lot, Jermaine. Do you set aside time to remember him?
Yeah, of course I do. I'm not sad either. Not always. Sometimes I laugh out loud when I think about the things my pop did. Like, he's the reason why I love raucous game nights and Sylvester Stallone movies. Even the schlocky ones. He's an American treasure. I'll argue with you about that later. But he also helped me to become a Unitarian Universalist, believe it or not. My pops was a 33rd degree Prince Hall Mason, and a part of his belief system was that all faith traditions have something of value.
Oh.
So he loved learning new things and meeting new people and being outdoors, especially fishing and being at his grill. Now, I may not have taken the fishing thing on, but I do love going to the beach, and I'm crazy with the grill. So yeah, I'm a huge griller. His mindset around it was, gas is for cooking, coals are for grilling.
Sorry, a little out of character there. So, Siege, even to your question, while this weekend is about, it has some sadness to it, right? But it's both sadness and celebration. That's what you're teaching me, Jermaine. That's what your dad taught us.
Yeah,
Yeah?
there's beauty in all of it.
I get it. So let's not forget about what this weekend is about, even as we start the summer, okay, everyone?
Okay.
Happy Memorial Day!
Happy Memorial Day, Shanti. Happy Memorial Day, Jeevan.
Aw. Go for it, Jackie.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. is only love. When I lose my strength and it seems I've lost my way, I just go inside and quiet my mind, and I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. Yes, there is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. A love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love.
Just give me a moment. I'm still melting. Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. My name is Dennis Mannion, and I am a member of the chaplain team here at Beacon. Now, chaplains extend the spiritual care of our community. On most Sundays, we welcome you into a ritual of candle lighting, but you notice there are no candles here today. For Memorial Day, our ritual will use pebbles, petals, and water instead of candles and sand. So I hope everybody got a pebble and a pencil as you entered today. If you don't have one, please raise your hand, and the ushers will bring you one. If you are watching virtually, we invite you to pause the video, gather it, and use your imagination, and you can embody this ritual later on. Let's begin by taking several deep breaths. Feel your chest and belly expanding as you inhale and contracting as you exhale. Invite calm, love, and healing into this space. First, thank the stone for being of service to you and offering itself up to this ritual. As you hold the stone in your hand, as you feel the ridges and edges, call to mind and body something that burdens you. Burdens of worry, fear, misfortunes, loss, grief, anger, sadness. On this day, as a community, this anniversary of George Floyd's killing, we honor his life and at the same time lift up the truth that police brutality is unacceptable and that Black lives matter. On this one-year anniversary of the killing in Uvalde, Texas, we continue to grieve over the senseless loss of so many lives. Innocent lives in Uvalde and throughout our land. May we harness our sadness and anger into action that will lead to sane gun policies. Giving everything to the stone, everything you would like to release. Now, gently rub the petals between your fingertips and feel them cradled in your palm. These petals represent beauty, our lightheartedness, our joy. As a congregation, may we be grateful and joyful as we enter Pride Month for all communities supporting the LGBTQ+ communities, especially in light of an increase of attacks on the rights and people in those communities. Consider your own joy. What's beautiful in your world? What makes you smile and lightens your burdens? We invite you now to bring your pebble forward and release the burdens we carry by dropping our stones into the bowl of water. And then afterwards, you can place your petals into the bowl of air, and Emily is going to assist me. Folks in the balcony are welcome to do so upstairs or come on downstairs. So come on forward.
And after the children have dropped their petal and pebble into the water, please join me in the lobby for our children's program.
As we conclude our ritual, let us first notice. Notice how the water takes on our burdens and sorrows. Now, notice as Emily drops the petals into the water, how they float, offering color and beauty to our lives. Finally, let us lift up gratitude, giving thanks for all those who are a balm to our burdens. Nature, communities like this one, movements of solidarity, the holy, even our own resources, and all who bring such joy to our days. Blessed be.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Mia. Kathleen, I'd like to invite you forward. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Grant, she, her, and I want to share with you today a little bit about the impact that Beacon has had on myself and my family. We've been members for a little over 3 years, and prior to joining Beacon, we were congregants at our local Catholic church, as both my husband Dave and I were raised Catholic, and it was an important part of our identities. While there are many beautiful aspects of our Catholic faith, I struggled as a mother in this tradition. I remember what a challenge it was to get my young children ready for church in the morning, dressed with a bag full of games and snacks and coloring books and crayons so we could get through that hour to keep them occupied during Mass. Walking to church, I would already be exhausted, but hopeful that we were going to do it this time, right? But ultimately, I would fail. We would make a misstep, a toddler who inadvertently kicks a pew ahead of us. I'd be shot death stares, maybe even called a name. And week after week, I would find myself in the dark vestibule directly outside the sanctuary, unable to see or hear the service with my unruly child. I would feel shame, and I would ask other mothers, what do you do? How do we get our children to sit still? And they would say, it's okay, just wait, they'll learn. They'll learn how to sit still and how to be quiet. But, I felt like I was flawed. I felt like a better mother would be able to make it work, that it wasn't so hard for her. And I also felt like maybe there was something wrong with them, that they weren't able to sit still. But in contrast, I remember walking into the sanctuary at Beacon 3 years ago with my young children, hesitant and afraid. I remember someone, I think it was Jermaine, warmly handing my children a pack with Play-Doh, Wiki sticks, crayons, and paper in a beautiful silver pouch tied with a bow. And there was 2 of them, so there was no fighting. There was a cozy corner in the back with pillows and books tucked away and so inviting for little ones to stretch out and move. I remember Jermaine and Tuli sending us so many direct and indirect messages. We're glad you're here. It's good to see you. The difference was stark and spoke volumes about the values held dear here at Beacon. You are welcome here. We understand the needs of children. We affirm the dignity of children. You are not alone. Yes, this is hard, and we want to help ease your burden. You can rest here. As we continue at Beacon, I'm astonished and profoundly grateful for the many ways my children have been welcomed, included, and loved. RE, the Christmas pageant, the Equinox pageant, children's choir, afternoon music, first grade owl. Now Julia will gleefully tell anyone who will listen the anatomically correct names of our body parts. My Catholic upbringing cringes, while I know in my heart this foundation will protect her and support her healthy growth, all of her. My children are so lucky to have so many growth fostering activities available to them in their broader community, in sports, in school. However, I often have the sinking feeling that in many spaces their value is equated to what they can produce, how well they're reading, their grades on standardized tests, how many goals they score in a soccer game. At Beacon, I don't feel this way. I feel the adults are invested in the growth of their spirits, who they are on the deepest level. They're loved for that. Beacon provides them a space to be cared for, but also grapple with life's larger questions, especially how to care for others, how to be agents of love and change in the larger world. Being a parent is hard. I am so grateful that our village includes Beacon and that my children will have trusted adults they can turn to as their lives become more complex in the coming years. Thank you.
One of the delights of each week is, we ask people to give testimonials, and you just never know what they're going to say. It's always a gift to hear their story. Thank you, Kathleen. Our offering is a practice of generosity. Is at a time when we understand that our mission of radical inclusion, of feeding the human spirit and healing the world, it only happens when we bring our gifts. Our children feel accepted here because we delight in them, and we provide a community of resources for them. Our offering will be given in that spirit, and I invite you into this practice of generosity.
Our reading this morning is called Creation is Messy by Reverend Laurel Mendez. Creation is messy, inconvenient, and often uncooperative. Take a look at the cosmos. Go ahead, close your eyes, and imagine the stars. When you do, forget the Franz Joseph Haydn spacious firmament bit. His images are far too tidy. See the real mess the universe made of itself 14 billion years ago. All of creation is still trying to clean that up. It's called the Big Bang, not the Grand Coalescence, for a reason. Mistakes were made and incorporated into the whole anyway. And wonders never cease. Here we are, muddling along 14 billion years after the fact. Now open your eyes and look around you. You are surrounded by the most astounding, miraculous wonder of all, each other, community. Life is ongoing, caring about life ongoing. So it is, so it shall be, because we do care. Here ends the reading.
First, I just want to say, because you all might not know this, but there is a moment here in that our beloved singer, Jackie, is in the house along with John, and we haven't yet said hello. And hello. And what y'all might not remember, because it was a long time ago, is that we used to have Sunday evening worship services called Refuel. And Jackie and I were together for a lot of those services. And I can still, to this day, every time I hear a song by Journey, I think of Jackie. And this is the first time in 4 years since before the pandemic that we have seen each other. It is such a delight, and there is only love. Thank you both. And thank you to all of the people who are not invisible but are behind the scenes making this service happen, from Will to Nicole, who's online, the people in person, Mia, Dennis, Kathleen, all of our ushers and welcome team. I mean, you might not think about it, but there is a whole crew that makes this happen. So thank you. And we begin with these words. Love is a choice. It is not a feeling, it's a choice. There is a documentary called 32 Sounds. And in that documentary, it tells the story about when the phonograph was invented. And people were able to hear not only music, but the sounds of voices. Voices who they had known and loved even after their deaths. And I have to tell you that in the documentary, they found that in that moment, people thought when they heard their beloved gone, those voices in this machine, that this machine could probably prevent death. In one scene of the documentary, we listened to a recording of a trumpeter, Gesundheit. Mazen Kurbaj was the trumpeter, and it was the summer of 2006. He was living in Beirut, Lebanon. At first, when you hear the image, when you hear the documentary, all you can hear is nighttime sounds. And you hear nature in summer. I want you to just close your eyes and think about what summer sounds like, maybe in your backyard or your garden, or maybe when you're walking down the summer street in the evening. Imagine what the night sounds like. What do you hear? Just shout it out. What do you hear? Crickets. Cicadas. Tree frogs. Birds. Foxes, children. The breeze on grass. Are you a poet? Boats. Yeah, there's loud sounds too, right? Absolutely. Trains. Firecrackers. People probably having a little bit too much fun. Those neighbors that are always very loud. Planes. Absolutely. This is what nighttime can sound like. So in the documentary, you hear these nighttime sounds, and then you hear the sound of a bomb falling on Beirut in the distance. And then you hear alarms going off, and then silence. And then out of that silence, a single trumpet begins to play. Death will not be the only sound of the night that night, because Mazen Kurbaj chooses love. He chooses to create music in the face of destruction. Love is a choice, Carter Hayward writes. We are not automatic lovers of self, others, world, or God, she writes. Love does not just happen. We are not love machines, puppets on the strings of a deity called love. No, she says, let us remember that love is a choice, not simply or necessarily a rational choice, but it is a choice, rather a willingness to be present to others without pretense or guile. A month ago, Reverend Robin, Dr. Tooley, and I attended the Revolutionary Love Conference at West End Collegiate Church in New York City, created by the amazing Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis and her congregation. And there we heard speaker after speaker after speaker tell the most amazing stories of their decision to choose a fierce love by calling for the sovereignty of indigenous tribes, by speaking out against white Christian nationalism within their own denominations, working in solidarity with prisoners on death row, living in solidarity with trans teenagers. I mean, y'all, it was Like from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., like the main stage was on and they were talking. There weren't breaks. They were like, when you need a break, you guys go. I mean, it was just like story after story, right? And I will admit that as I heard these stories, I heard these choices of fierce love, choosing fierce love, I had a little voice in the back of my head say, well, I could never do that. Because the stories seem so big. Like they were taking down like horrible but amazing things. And it's like, I just want to know if I can get up tomorrow morning, get out of bed. Like, how is that choosing love? Is that bold enough? Am I enough? Are we enough? That's the thing about congregations and bold mission statements like radical inclusion. When do you ever feel like you're actually measuring up? One of the stories that stayed with me was not on the main stage. It was in fellowship hall during coffee hour. It was the first time that I had seen one of my colleagues since before the pandemic, and there we sat with almost cold cups of coffee, not very good coffee, sitting there talking over a blueberry muffin. And my colleague told me that her next trip was actually to Texas to mourn her beloved grandmother's passing. Now, everyone in her family had really just loved her grandmother. She was their rock, the source from which their love flowed. Her grandmother, however, had died right there at the very beginning of the pandemic, April, May 2020, and her family lived all around the country, so they really couldn't come together, and they decided that they were really not going to do anything. No virtual service, no nothing. They would just wait, because if you remember at that time, we all thought, oh, we'll be done by Easter, right? Like, it's going to happen, right? And then a year and another year, and it was what it was. No rituals, either personal or private, to mourn that profound loss. And so now, 3 years later, they are getting together. And she said that she noted how it seems like her family had locked away their grief. And she wondered if they were going to have the ability to access it. She said to me, I can tell you right now, it doesn't look good, just based on the planning. She said, I wonder if we can get over the deep loss that we are feeling. And so later, I was walking around the streets of New York, and it was a really horrible weekend. It was one of those weekends where it just poured with rain, and nobody was looking at one another. Everybody under umbrellas trying to get from one place to another. And I was kind of in this space where I was, after hearing everybody, just needed to walk the streets. And as I walked and looked at people, I wondered how many of us are walking through right now wondering if we are enough? How many of us are walking around with grief that has been locked away, that we have not had the rituals or the gatherings where we could acknowledge that grief and work through it? How many of us are walking wounded, hiding, not revealing the real grief we're feeling? Holding it in isolation, just getting on with life as if everything is okay. The Psalms in the Hebrew Bible are filled with lamentation. Have you ever read those in full? When you do, you see that these ancient writers really knew what grief was about, and also a sense of disconnection. They're often asking the question, are you even there, God? I am suffering. I'm asking you to be with me. Are you there? Will the pain of this loss end? Why have you forsaken me? My colleague, Ginny Brown Daniel in Texas, has been following the mothers of the victims of the Uvalde massacre, and they have been writing their own psalms, but on Twitter. There, she follows each one of them, reading their tweets. Are you there? I am sad, and I don't know if it's going to end. And she responds, we are here. We are with you. And in that moment, it unlocked something for me. Love is a choice. And the choice doesn't have to be grand or bold or big. It just means showing up. No one freak out. For those of you online, there's like a big wasp thing who's chosen to be with us to let us know that Spirit is with us. We will not. Love is a choice, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It is about being with someone when they need us. Carter Haywood reminds us it is a conversion to humanity, a willingness to participate with others in the healing of a broken world and broken lives. And one of the questions that I feel like we have constantly been talking about is, are we willing to face and participate in the brokenness of the world? And amazingly, you all keep saying yes. Now, if there was ever a symbol for repressed grief, it would be the character of Roy Kent in the show Ted Lasso. Anybody watch Ted Lasso? I have not seen season 3, so please do not tell me what happens in it, all right? Now, those of you who know, this is a football player, English football, soccer. My English husband always makes fun of the way that I say soccer, football. And his culture has taught him to be tough, to be a wall, to not let anything get to him. Vulnerability is a sign of weakness, and yet he has so many emotions that are balled up inside of him. And in fact, the actor who plays him has said that he pretends that there's just a cork right here, and he keeps all of the emotions, so this is the way he talks, because all of the emotions are right here, and he's afraid of what will happen if he lets them out. Brett Goldstein is the actor who plays Roy, but before he became the actor, he was the writer. He wrote Roy Kent into being. And Brett was recently interviewed and recounted a time before something that helped, a movie that he watched. And in that movie, it helped him conceive of how Roy Kent was created. It was a critically acclaimed film that was based on a true story of trauma. And the film showed one traumatic event after another in agonizing slowness. And Brett describes it as profoundly bleak. And it's the film that he hates most because it's too brutal. In fact, Brett said that it was divorced from humanity because it was just raw destruction. And he said, I think that that's really just bad art because that isn't how life is. Yes, horrible events happen, and sometimes they can happen repeatedly, but if you've ever experienced horrible events, if you've read books written by survivors, there is always a moment of humor, a moment of grace, a moment of connection where people laughed together or where they held each other or where they connected, a moment of love. And if you've made something, a piece of art that's devoid of the moment and only holds the destruction, he says, I think you've not watched life. Life is the experience of holding both the suffering and the joy, often at the same time. We have pebbles and petals. And wasn't it hard for you all to hold on to both throughout the beginning of the service? Creation is messy, Mia read to us from Reverend Laurel Mendez, inconvenient and often uncooperative. See the real mess the universe made of itself 14 billion years ago. Now, there is a story that Jesus tells us to remind his community to never give up, to keep looking for God, and it's often called the parable of the pleading woman. Oh. She is a widow. In the story itself, she has no name. She is just a widow, right? Named for her loss alone. And day after day, this widow goes to an unjust judge. That's how he's described. And she pleads for justice. And the judge denies her again and again until one day he finally grants her justice, if only to stop seeing her at his door every day. A chaplain friend of mine shared that he always hated this story too. It's one of despair and meanness. Why would Jesus tell this story? And he wondered until he visited another widow in a hospital room, and she told him that it was her favorite of Jesus's parables because it taught her that while the world could be full of suffering, she was never alone in it. She said, "For God does not forsake you." That's what she believed Jesus was trying to say. Even if you feel the judge will never grant you justice, you get up and go. You choose to get up and go because it is an act of love. And because the community of love will show up for you if you get up and show up for it. Love is the choice to experience life as a member of the human family, says Carter Haywood. We are partners in the dance of life rather than as an alien in the world or as a deity above the world, aloof and apart from human flesh. When we choose love, we create that community of love that is so desperately needed because it offers us those moments of laughter, connection, and light. We are surrounded by the most astounding, miraculous wonder of all. Did you hear that in the reading? We are surrounded by the most astounding, miraculous wonder of all. Do you know what that is? You want to just look around at one another for a moment? Just as an aside, sometimes as I'm walking around looking at everybody and everybody's on their phones, I find that I want to shout and be like that angry woman, "Put your phones away! Look around at everybody. There's a world here waiting to be seen, a community, life ongoing, caring about life ongoing." And that showed up this week, and I'll just take a moment to say, some of you might have gotten some of the community messages, or messages from Beacon on Friday, that all of a sudden we found out in the city of Summit that the drag show for Pride was canceled here in Summit. Now, I want to say that it is because Beacon, and this is really true, it is because Beacon and Christ Church and Fountain Baptist showed up and said, there will be a drag show in Summit, and we will host it, that then it caused Summit to put a new drag show back on the calendar. And really, my hat's off to Reverend Robin, who, for a solid 48 hours as the president of the Interfaith Council, worked with our partners to make that happen. And so I'm glad to say that Summit is now having 2 drag shows on the same night instead of 1 or 0. But this is what I mean. Sometimes it's just one little thing where you show up and say, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And it causes other people to be held accountable. That is at the core of universalism, the faith that loves the literal hell out of the world. It emerged as a protest movement against the voices that said God was a wrathful God, one against creation, and that humanity was inherently unworthy. But we know that that's not who the holy or one another is. That's what early universalists said. That's who we claim. The vision of God as mean and punishing and wrathful and humanity as unworthy, that's just bad art. It's bad life. If we love, we will know loss. The two are inextricably bound. But we don't stop loving so we can shield ourselves from loss, because in doing so, it cuts us off from our humanity. And when we cut ourselves off from our humanity, that's when really bad things happen, like white Christian nationalism. So we remember to be connected to our loss and to share it with one another, and remember that in that connection, there is actually beauty and grace and love. So Maggie Smith, and I promise I'm almost done, Maggie Smith wrote a book. It's Keep Moving, Notes on Loss, Creativity, and Change. And she wrote, "In my life, I have stood through fires as a fearful person, a person to whom courage does not come easily. We have come to accept, if not expect, that trauma results in psychological and physical damage. But what about post-traumatic growth? growth, the positive change experienced as a result of the struggle when a major life crisis or event occurs. Researchers have found that humans actually push forward after these moments. They make a choice. After losing your friends and colleagues in battle, to lead a life of service. In the face of bombs falling on Beirut, to play a trumpet. In the change of the legacy of what Summit is going to be about, to say, yes, we ground ourselves in pride. So often, Maggie Smith goes on, we think of loss as only destructive, but it is also generative because every ending has a beginning. What might me grow in the barren place of loss? Why not ask, what could I plant here? What creation could take root in this time of destruction? That, beloved, is our spiritual task. So back to that documentary I talked about, that 32 sounds. There's a moment in which you hear the sound of a bird, the moho braccatus. The sound you hear is its mate calling. One bird calling its mate over and over again. Give me a bird call, people. Go ahead. That lone bird, as hard as this is to say, that lone bird is the last of its species. And its call will never be answered by its mate. And yet, it still calls. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And we listen. We are here. We are here. We are here. Love is a choice. Let us both sound the call and answer with a resounding yes. Amen. We're going to sing.
All right. All right. I'd like to thank.
Jackie, you take this away.
Okay. I'll try to keep the momentum up. We thank Reverend Emily for that wonderful talk. Keep the energy up there. Thank you. So we can stand as we are able and turn to 151. Is that it? I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. We're going to sing all the verses. All right, so let's get comfortable here. Here we go. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I should say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear.
Jackie, and thank you, everyone. It's a party in the house. Woo! Happy Sunday. I invite all of our worship leaders and friends I invite you to take your hands with one another. Put your hand on your heart if you are able. One or the other. Maybe the end folks can put on. We extinguish this chalice, but we take its inspiration out into the world for a new day. Amen, blessed be, and ashe. Be well, beloveds. We love you all. Amen. Amen.